Okay, are we live?
Yes.
All right, perfect. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining our APM webinar. We come to you live from Cairo, Egypt, and we have with us here April Muscara, who's our content lead for Instabug, Nadine, Mansour, who's the APM product manager, and myself. I run product and design for Instabug, and it's a pleasure talking with everyone. So let me share my screen straight away and get us started. Okay. All right. Perfect. So let me just we're gonna go through like a typical kind of agenda. We're gonna be talking about why we built APM, how we built it. We're gonna talk about the features themselves, and then Nadine's gonna give you a demo, and then we're gonna jump straight into integration and how to actually use the thing. And then finally, we're gonna answer any questions you have. So first of all, we currently, like, let's kind of fast forward to 3 days ago where we didn't have APM. We had use cases that covered both app stability and user feedback. Within app stability, we had crash reporting and bug reporting. And building APM was initially triggered by our current customers. To help everyone, to help paint this picture, let me quickly walk you through what we do, right? So crash reporting just simply tells you when the app just falls off the grid. It crashes, and it's the worst case scenario. So it's mission critical. All of the serious apps have it. And the issue with it is that it doesn't reflect actual perceived quality. So as long as the app is working, that's where kind of crash reporting stops short. With user feedback, that's very useful if you're putting together like a product backlog, if you're gathering sentiment. But the issue there is that, again, the user is seeing symptoms. So they can't tell you exactly what is going on the back end to result in whatever kind of issue that they're seeing, because something is slow, something is not working. And so this is kind of what inspired some of the thought behind why we built it. And now, the common feedback, I guess, was developers didn't have enough visibility into the app's performance, so we already covered that. We're only showing part of the picture. And so they'd kind of be surprised with user issues that fell outside of crash reporting and out of the user feedback that they could analyze. And so what we realized was we had a big gap in the market, which was that of all of the performance monitors and reporters out there, only a subset catered to mobile. And within that subset, us included, we kind of didn't show the developer enough granularity on what they needed to solve. So when it came to, I don't want to kind of mess up what Nadine has in store for you, but when it came to various issues that they encountered, something was not quite working, however, on paper still working, still didn't rise to the level of meeting the definition of a crash. This is where we found this huge gap in the market. And none of it was optimized for mobile apps. So with that said, like, now that I've given the context, and obviously we'll welcome questions in the end, let me move over the conversation to Nadine, who's going to be taking you through more details here about APM's features. So I will just enable, well, first of all, stop sharing. And
yeah, just make me the host.
And then I will make Nadine the host. There we are.
Okay. So yeah. Okay, so hi everyone. It's Nadine from the product team. Thank you so much, Nabil, for the intro. And a quick disclaimer before we go into the details. Probably like everyone who's joining today, I'm working from home. So I'm sharing the Wi-Fi with the entire family. So in advance, I'm very sorry for any technical issues. I'm very excited to share with you what we have built and the different features we have in APM. And before we get into the details, I want to give you a bit of a background about how we built the product. As Nabil was saying, everything was triggered by customer feedback on our side. So we started to talk with a lot of mobile teams, and throughout the entire product development process, we have been consulting with different teams from different industries and of different sizes as well. And the main goal was to basically build a product that optimizes for the actual goals that mobile teams care about. And by the end, what we reached is that the main keyword that everyone cares about is perceived quality. So what does that mean? Basically, mobile teams, they want to proactively discover any critical issues that's happening in their mobile app on production and affecting their customers. Specifically with the different permutations of different devices, different app versions on different connections, and many other factors that can affect the app performance. And next, every mobile team wants to have the ability to efficiently balance between performance fixes and bug fixes in general and feature development. So time is always limited, resources are always limited. So to be able to tell whether it makes sense to, for the next quarter or for the next half, to allocate 50% or 80% for of the capacities for feature development versus 20% for bug fixes. To be able to find this balance is critical as well. And next, when there is an issue and you're 100% sure that this is something that's worth resolving, to be able to figure out the root cause quickly and not to waste your team's time trying to figure out what was happening on the user's device. And last, to create a sense of alignment across the different mobile teams, whether you have different squads or different teams working on different parts of the application, to create a sense of alignment with a single goal that everyone is optimizing for. And the perfect scenario is that this goal actually represents the perceived quality or how your end users are actually seeing the application. Okay, so next comes the interesting part. In a few minutes, I will walk you through all the details of the dashboard on the different pages. But before we do so, I want to give you a quick walkthrough about the different metrics that we capture. So we start with the crashes, and this is not something new that we're doing. We have been in the crash reporting scene for a lot of years now. So we're leveraging the module that we already have. And next to it, we're adding two new buckets, basically the wait time and UI hands. For the wait time, I personally believe that this is very important. So every customer who's using an application, they open the app to do a specific job. So whether they are ordering a breakfast, they're ordering a cab, checking for the latest news, they have something in mind that they're doing, and anything that's affecting or slowing them down definitely can affect their experience negatively. And this can be due to, for example, a network call that's taking longer than expected, or it might be failing, whether for a client-side reason or a server-side reason as well. Another scenario that can happen if you're using, if a user is waiting longer than expected for the app to start in the first place and to accept input from the customer. And even if you want to track or if you want to report on specific custom logic on your side. So for example, let's say you're processing the data that you see from the network before you display it on the screen, or if you have a client-side search that you're doing, anything that you feel can be a bottleneck for the user experience can definitely be tracked and reported on. And next, the UI hands or the UI rendering or the UI performance. And I'm personally very excited about this one, and because it's very common. It happens a lot. And technically, what happens is, for a lot of reasons, an application might start dropping frames. And for the end user, what they perceive is that the app is not smooth enough. So for example, they might be tapping on a specific action and the app is not responding immediately. It's taking like a few milliseconds or a few seconds to react back. Or maybe you're scrolling in the list and the list is not smooth, it's not as fast as the user interaction. And on top of all those metrics, another layer, it's a high-level layer that accounts for all the metrics that we discussed. And this is basically the app overall quality. You can think of it as a single score that reflects how the general experience or how the general quality of the application is doing. And it accounts for all the metrics we discussed so far. Okay, so now the exciting part. I will be playing now a video that basically it's a product tour that explains everything we have on the dashboard. So let me go to the different tab. Yep. Okay. So this is what you see once you log into your APM dashboard. It starts with your app score on the left. It's a number from 0 to 1, and the higher the score, the better. And a healthy score is above 0.94. So based on what we see here, a score of 0.79 is not a good score, and there is definitely a lot of improvements that can be done. Your AppAptics is very useful when aligning your entire team and to easily communicate and report on the app's overall quality across different teams. And it will help you plan ahead as well. So let's say you're planning your capacities for the next quarter, you can easily tell whether you need to allocate team capacities to improve your app quality, or it's better to focus on features and experiments. To calculate the AppAptics, we check every session that we receive from your app, and we flag it as crashing session, frustrating session, tolerable session, or satisfying session. A crashing session is basically, it's very straightforward. It's a session that ended with a crash. And if this is not the case, and hopefully it's not going to be the case, hopefully you're not going to be seeing crashing sessions, we put it into one of the 3 other buckets. How this calculation is done, we depend on everything that's happening within your application. So you can imagine that within a single session, you can have a lot of network calls, some screen visits, different execution traces, and definitely we account for the app launch time as well. And based on how all of them are performing, the whole session is flagged as frustrating, tolerable, or satisfying. And then we check how all your sessions are distributed across the 4 buckets. And based on their distribution, we calculate your AppAptic score. On the right, you can see how the score is changing over time. And this is very useful to spot trends, to understand when a problem started to happen, and to project the overall direction of the application in general. For each data point, you can better understand the score by looking into the sessions distribution. You can also filter everything you see in this page by date or by an app version. So for example, if you have a major release and you want to keep a very close eye on how the app is performing, you can do that as well. Next, there is the key metrics section. And it answers a very important question. So let's say you found that your AppAptic score is lower than expected and you want to understand why. This is when the key metrics section comes very useful. It summarizes the 5 metrics that we discussed so far. So first you can see your top crashes, and by top I mean the crashes with the highest number of occurrences based on the filters that you applied in the page. And next you can see your app launch. On the left you can see the set target. And in this case, it's 2 seconds. You can definitely change this number to be like more strict or more generous. And the target number is very important because this is what we depend on to calculate your AppAptic score. So we see for every app launch occurrence, we compare it with your target and see how far it is from the target. If it's lower than the target, then this is a good indicator. If it's higher than your target, but not very far away from it, then it's a tolerable experience. But if it's a very far away app launch from the target, then this is a frustrating experience. So it affects your app launch AppDix, and hence it affects your AppAptics as well. On the right, you can see 4 different numbers, the AppDix, the average, the P95, and the count. The average, it's very straightforward. Basically, on average, the app launch is taking 1.43 seconds to launch. However, the average is not, usually it's not enough to look at the average on its own. because as we can see in this example, the average is 1.43, which is lower than the target. However, if we check the APDEC score, it's 0.92, which is lower than the highest bucket. And we can see that there is like a drop at some point from the chart here. And if we look at the P95, it's saying that in 5% of the cases, or for the 5% of the cases, seconds to launch. So while the average looks okay, there are like some groups or some sessions that are very far away from the targets that I'm setting for this application. Next, you can see your execution traces, and basically these are the ones that you defined. It's the same structure and the same numbers that we discussed earlier. You can set a target and you can check the exact same numbers. Next, you can see your least performing network calls. It's worth mentioning here that while talking about network, to calculate the APDECs, we don't only depend on the response time and compare it to your target. We also account for any failures, whether it's a client-side failure or a server-side failure. And last, there is the UI hang section, and basically we group everything based on the screen. So for every screen in your application, you can see a score that says how healthy this screen is, or how good is its experience based on the hang occurrences or like the hang incidents that the users are seeing. Okay, so now let's say you want to like take a look at all your network traces, not only the ones who are least performing, but everything. You can go to your network list. So let's see everything. Yep. Okay, so as a structure, it's basically similar to what we discussed in the homepage. For all the network calls, there is a target and the 4 numbers, but there are like 2 different concepts that I want to highlight in this page. First, the grouping. So Instabug automatically detects numerical and hexadecimal tokens or like variables in your URLs. We replace them with a wildcard, and based on that, we group the relevant calls together. But let's say you want to build your own custom URL patterns, or like you want to have a more sophisticated grouping patterns, you can always do that from the create URL patterns section. And the second concept that I want to discuss is the key metrics. And let me give you an example. So in your app, if you're sending some data to the server for product analysis and usage, so to like analyze feature adoption and so on, you may want to like know how this request is performing, but it's not really affecting the user experience. So whether it's taking 1 second or 3 seconds, they won't feel the difference. So if you go back to the app APDEC score that we discussed in the homepage, this should represent the app experience as seen by your customers. So in such cases, we recommend that you exclude any network call that's not affecting your customers from the APDEC calculation, which can be done from here. So you can basically click on this one to include it again in the APDEC calculation, or if I want to exclude this one, I can click on it and unmark it as a key method. It's going to be excluded from the app APDEC calculation. Okay, so from the list, it's very obvious that this one has a problem. So I want to better understand what's going on. So you can click on it to go into a details page. First, you can filter all your data by several parameters. When it comes to network, things like the country, the radio, the carrier are super useful. And then you can see how this request is performing over time. You can easily spot trends and even correlate with other events outside of the app scope. So for example, a backend outage, or like a spike in the usage due to like a marketing campaign or something. On the right, you can see the throughput. In a lot of cases, the throughput and the APDECs, they can correlate. So when there is a drop in the usage, you might find like a spike in the throughput, for example. And next, you can see the average response time and how it's changing over time. And as we were saying before, given that the average is not usually enough, we provide you with a distribution chart as well. So for example, we can see that here that most of the occurrences are below the target, which is a good thing. Some of them are slightly higher than the target, and another group is very far away from the target. So if I want to define, or I want to decide the priority of this issue, probably I'm gonna depend on the size of this group on the right here. If you scroll down, you would see the failure rate over time, and you can see them broken down by client side or server side. When you hover on any data point, you can see the exact errors and their percentages. And last, the pattern section, which is, I believe, is crucial to save your data. You can find patterns based on a lot of parameters. So, for example, here we can clearly see that on specific carriers, things are not performing well. You can also check based on the radio or the country, the OS version, the device, and the app version. Okay, so this is basically the level of details that you can find with every metric, but there are like slight changes based on which metric we're looking at. So for example, if we go back to our homepage and we pick, for example, an execution trace, which is something that I define, you're gonna find that everything probably looks very familiar, but when we're talking about the parameters and the filters, we give you an option to add your own attributes. So let's say I'm adding a trace to see how long it takes to compress a file, and I want to see how this is performing based on the file size or the file type. I can add those as parameters to see them here, or maybe if I'm conducting an experiment to compare two different logic or two different algorithms against one another, I can add this as an experiment flag or like an experiment attribute and see the difference. If we go to the UI hands, for example, so let's open the screen. So now we're looking at the field view controller. You're gonna see that in the filters, we're including some parameters around the battery, and same for the patterns. And when we're talking about the UI performance, device is usually a huge suspect, for example, specifically on Android, because there is like a huge fragmentation of devices. Given that this is purely controlled by the client side, something that, like the app version is important as well. You can check by the battery state. So in a lot of cases, when the power saving mode is enabled, it affects the UI performance negatively. And same when the app is like low on battery. And last, if you want to check how the app launch details look like, so you can see how the performance is changing over time, the number of launches over time, the distribution, and the average. When we look at the average, we break it down into the time occupied or the time taken by the OS versus the time taken by the application itself. In the patterns, you're going to see the app version, device, and OS version as well. And we're adding another attribute, the first screen, because, for example, if you're launching the application from the icon, it takes you to a different flow or a different screen than if you're launching the application from a push notification or from the widget, for example. So this can help you to understand if there is a problem in the launch, it's coming from a specific flow or from a specific screen. Okay, awesome. So yeah, so that was like a quick tour for how the product looks like or how the dashboard looks like in action. I'm very excited for you guys to try it out. I would love to hear any feedback. And if anyone is interested to have a personalized demo to see how the product can be as beneficial as possible given your app and your use case, we can definitely do that. So please reach out to product@instabug.com. And last, how to get started. So if you're already using Instabug and you have the SDK in your application, it's very simple. Just update your SDK to the latest version, version 10 on both platforms, iOS and Android. On your dashboard, you're gonna find a button to request access. Once you do, in like an hour max, the team will take care of it and you're gonna have access to our APM. And if you're not using Instabug, already, just sign up today. You're gonna have access to everything, and the product should work out of the box. So yeah, back to Nabil. So yeah, let me make you host again. Okay, so Nabil, can you, yeah, I think you're now the host.
Okay, great. So let's, first of all, I hope that was useful for everyone. Let's jump into Q&A now. Like I would share my screen, but all it's going to show is just one slide from our presentation that says Q&A. So you can take my word for it. We got some questions from customers by email when we launched. And so let's entertain those first, and then we can certainly get to the Zoom ones on this webinar. So a customer asks, how long is the free trial? How much will it cost? And if you haven't had a chance to kind of try out everything and you're not really kind of convinced, we can certainly extend it for you, but the standard, like the starting one is 7 days. The free trial is free, so it doesn't cost anything. After that, obviously APM has a cost per month. You can check it out on pricing.instabug.com. And let's see, what was the third part of the question? It was having a hard time alt-tabbing today. There we go. And what is included? So the free trial itself, like it just shows you like a basic. Nadine, jump in here, please, to keep me honest. Like you can see every one of the features that Nadine just described, and then at the end of 7 days, you basically start paying if you like what you see. Like, Nadine, do we have any shortcomings from the trial versus the actual paid version?
No, it's exactly the same version that we give to our existing customers. So you can just sign up, and you're gonna have access to like a free trial, and yeah, you're gonna enjoy the product, and we can help you with the setup and everything.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. That's a great point. So the setup, the integration, kind of like just overcoming that kind of confusing stage, maybe where you're setting up the SDK, you're integrating with us, and there's a lot of information, maybe at first glance to absorb. We can make that very simple. You just need to call us or email us, and we'll set up everything for you. We'll schedule a 15 or 30 or 45-minute call to make sure you're all set up and you can see a dashboard. It's transmitting data. It's making sense, and it's giving meaning to you. Another customer is asking, what's going on the roadmap? So we're actually trying to figure that out for ourselves. There's quite a lot of feedback. Imagine coming first. I guess two of the most visible forms of feedback are A, do you guys have alerts? Like, do you have some sort of configurable thing where when some metric hits some threshold, some people are notified? And so that's one major theme. The other one is, can you give me as a developer some more like deeper information to use to debug and troubleshoot issues? And that's absolutely something else on our roadmap. This is in addition to supporting more platforms like React Native, maybe Flutter. We're still looking into it. I think those are the major ones. Nadine, please step in. I'm sure I forgot some.
Yeah, I think you covered everything. So basically, we have a lot of things that we can add to the product, whether to help you. Basically, we're going to be hammering on all the goals that we mentioned. So we're going to be adding more features to help you proactively discover more problems in the application. So maybe we can add more metrics to help you fix the problems faster. So maybe we can add like more information to debug the problem. So basically, we're going to be hammering on all the goals that the 4 goals that we discussed today.
Got it. And then there's a third question here that says, how do you compare APM to the various Google offerings available with Firebase? What does APM do better? What does it not do? Can Firebase, it's kind of like 6 questions banded together, so bear with me. Can Firebase do anything that APM can't do, or can it do anything better than APM can? It would be frustrating to spend developer time experimenting with APM if we could know beforehand kind of the things it can't do yet. So like give us the skinny or the digest on what you guys couldn't fit into this launch, I guess. Nadine, you're the best person to answer this. It's a good question.
So I would love to answer this question based on the different feedback that we received. So talking with customers who are moving from Firebase, typically we heard three common pain points. The first one is well, you have access to a lot of metrics and a lot of information that's captured from your application, but it's not easy to spot that there is a problem. So it's very common to see a lot of 99 on your dashboard, but you know for a fact that there is a problem. And this is why, while building the product, we made sure the numbers they highlight the different problems. So the average, it will move or it will change if you have a wide, huge production issue. The abdex is represented basically will help you understand if there is different outliers or if the distribution of customers doesn't look good, and the P95 to better understand the worst case scenario, how it looks like. The second pain point that we usually hear is with a lot of granular information. If you're leveraging an APM product to the max, you have a lot of numbers to look at, which makes it very hard to communicate across different teams how the app is doing, or to you don't have any high level number. Basically something similar to the crash-free session, but with a wider scope. So this was a clear pain point that we heard a lot. And the way we're resolving this is via the abdex score that we discussed. And the last thing that we heard a lot of times is basically the real-time alerts. And while this is not something that we have now, I think Nabil, correct me if I'm wrong, we're planning to explore this track and hopefully add it in the near future as well.
We are, yeah. We're just kind of trying to make sense of all of the incoming data, and we're just going through this prioritization exercise, which is always hard because some people are very vocal about certain things. They're pretty literal, and so they say, "Hey, you don't have alerts. We want alerts." Other things are less so, and we kind of try to wriggle them out of users when we witness them using APM. And so we have to kind of line them up all together and form a realistic backlog. But I can confidently say alerts is definitely, one of the table stakes thing. It's just a matter of when and how do we avoid dropping something else important at its expense. Okay.
Actually,
there is
that I want to add about the trial question. Someone was asking about the trial. So I just want to highlight as well that once you sign up to Instabug, you get a full trial of everything that we offer. And it's not only related to APM, so you're gonna have access to bug reporting, crash reporting, APM, user surveys, and feature requests. So basically, your trial will give you access to everything that we offer, so you can try everything and see how all the products work together. And this is actually one of the main values of the dashboard as well.
That is correct. So we have on Zoom here, Dan Post asking, can you tell if unsatisfying sessions are happening more often on certain manufacturers or device types? So can we basically slice by device type within the unsatisfying sessions?
Yep, so basically within every metric, so let's say you found that there is a problem in a specific network call or in the app launch, whatever metric that you have that has a low abdex score or a high percentage of unsatisfying customers, you can always check the patterns. You're gonna see if there is a clear suspect, or whether it's a device or app version or anything else. You're gonna see that in the patterns tab as well.
There is another question saying, how to try APM without affecting the organization systems? I'm sure that question. Maybe what do we mean by direct systems here? And obviously, we can give you a generic answer on how our SDK operates and how it avoids kind of breaking your app. But if you could give us, Janelle, more details, that would help us kind of be specific with our answer. So until you type, and obviously we'll get to it, Ken Hoskins asks, I may have missed it. Can the metrics be broken down by geography? Nadine?
Okay, so specifically when we're talking about network, this can be done. So again, I feel like the patterns are like the winner today from all the questions. If you go to the patterns section within any network call, you can see how things are working or how things are performing based on the country. So yeah, when we're talking about network specifically, this is done. Yeah.
Perfect. So I see here, Janelle actually raised her hand. Let me try to. It's pretty tricky. Okay, until I do figure this out, because Zoom is a bit tricky there. We have a fourth question. Does the SDK support SwiftUI?
Okay, I don't think there is, nothing that from what we have doesn't work with SwiftUI right now. I think there are a couple of features that might be tricky, but generally it should work. Yeah, it should work.
Okay. I can't see the raised hand anymore. Maybe Janelle, I can see one more message. Nope, I can't see your raised hand anymore for some reason. Maybe it's something wrong with Zoom, but that's strange. We have another question coming in. It says, does the as far as the network calls go, I noticed REST is supported. Would GraphQL calls also be supported?
I think I need to check this one. Please, Andrew, you have my email. So if you can, let's discuss this together over email. I want to like double check that it's gonna work perfectly. So I'm gonna discuss it with someone from the engineering team and I can confirm to you.
Great. I'm still trying to get
I'm trying to
get
out
Janelle to
skim through the
talk. Yeah, that would be great too.
Yeah.
Okay, allowed to talk. All right, so Janelle, we just enabled your microphone rights. Go ahead. Tell us what we're missing. I think the network might be a little bit tricky. Maybe I'm mispronouncing the name too. Jainal Mutakin. No, it must be a network issue.
I think there are like several people were asking about how to get in touch with the product team or like how to have a more personalized demo. So again, I think to make it very easy for everyone, you guys can reach out to product@instabug.com. And I think that April, you shared the Calendly link as well, so you can go ahead and schedule a call with anyone, either me or Nabil. And yeah, the easiest way is just send us a very simple email to product@instabug.com, and we're gonna share with you a few slots to pick from. Yeah, exactly. And yeah, for sure we can have like more personalized demos. Yeah.
And obviously, like you can reach out to any one of us. There, I see April here shared. Can lend the link to you, so you can just go ahead and schedule a demo or a trial or an SDK integration for yourself, and we'd be happy to take you through it.
Yep. I think we went through all the questions. Do you see anything else, Nabil?
Nope, there's no more questions on my side, and we've answered the ones that came in through email. We've answered the ones that came in on this webinar. Why don't we wait? If anyone is typing, actually, no, it seems like we're pretty much, yeah, we're pretty much done. Well, folks, if you think of any questions after this webinar, you can reach us easily. This has been awesome. Thanks for the engagement. We're happy to share APM with you. It's been a pleasure. This has been like a 9-month effort actually, and the ideation phase was even before that. So obviously to all the team members watching now, to Nadine, to Basim, and to Mu'taz and Omar, thank you so much. This is just the beginning, and keep them coming. Let us know if you don't like it. We will do something about it, and let us know if you do like it, because we will celebrate. All right. Thanks, folks.
Thank you so much.